Well, what's up, folks? It is Tuesday night, and we are 2 days away from St. Patty's Day, which is, I think, more important than any other sports venue that's going on tonight. I'm just saying because on St. Patty's Day, we are all Irish, just like Cinco de Mayo. All of us are Mexicans on Cinco de Mayo. Why? Well, because we all want to have party, fun, laughters, all the good fun stuff, especially Fuji. Don't let anyone fool you, because Fuji loves to be Irish on St. Patty's Day, and you got to see him on Cinco de Mayo. He puts on the whole hat. He does his little, Macarena dance. It's hilarious. You guys will see it one time. I'll record it when I go back up to Philly, and I'll show you how it all works. But listen, thank you all for tuning in tonight. And yes, we are temporarily back here on Facebook and every other platform because as we get the situation straightened out with No Filter Network, unfortunately, we do our show here differently than any other different network. And so in order for our audio feed to come in nice and crisp and clear, as we do on this side of the house, we want to make sure it's done right on the No Filter Network side of the house. So if you're tuning in from No Filter Network tonight, we do appreciate it. Also, for everyone else that we haven't talked to in a little bit, we thank you for tuning in as well. Tonight, we have a lot to talk about, as obviously Major League Baseball is back, as you can see, sporting the Phillies hat here. Also, some NFL talk as one Russell Wilson decided to, beat feet over from Seattle, make his way over to Denver. And now supposedly the rumor will be, which is unconfirmed by some source with the initials of MF, the other one, I guess the MFF dude, the Godfather. Unconfirmed reports that supposedly Von Miller wants to go back to Denver. So we'll see. We will talk about it, all this, with Evan Macy from PhillyVoice.com, as he's locked and loaded for tonight, where we have a plethora of trades that might be going on, but he will let us know. But again, thank you to everyone tuning in tonight. It is, once again, Tuesday, 83 degrees down here in Tampa, although we are expecting some pretty bad storms that came through the area. Thankfully, they end up going away, and that's the reason why we weren't on last week, because even though it is wintertime, it's like summer down here. So tune in, strap on some good ones, because we are planning to have all kinds of fun tonight. We appreciate everyone tuning in. And by the way, Australia, thank you for being the newest member of listening to us on our audio download side. We really do appreciate it. So good things are happening. We continue to grow. We continue to excel. And not only that, the First Lady co-host is back with us tonight. Back from her pageantry, back from her books, back from Connecticut, back from everywhere. She's just back, period. So it's good to see her, along with our national correspondent, and of course, our newest Blue Jay, Dylan Spalding, is in the house tonight as well. So the whole gang is here. We will see you on the other side. I'm Angel, episode 123, and welcome to Broad. And he's very, very lucky that I did not click over to his camera while he was dancing to the music intro. But it's all right, because one of these days, he'll understand, he'll get it. It is the Godfather, also known as Mike Fuji. Fuji, what's happening tonight?
It's a week. Son Reddick's in the fold with the Birds. How he better start making some more moves before everybody starts flying off the board like today and yesterday. Angel, how are you? It has been confirmed Freddie Freeman is a Toronto Blue Jay. Just Dylan broke that story just before we went on air. Angel, how are you? It's been a week. Let's get the story rolling with Evan Macy in the building. How are you?
Well, I'm doing just fine, as we are live here from the LG Sales Solutions Studios out in Tampa, Florida. So we do appreciate, once again, everyone tuning in tonight. We do appreciate and always thank everyone for either listening to the audio download, watching us live, because we can't do the show without you guys. And of course, the Philly Sports hotline is open. PhillySportsTrips.com hotline is open, 813-553-1130. Just give me a little bit of time, because obviously, as I'm switching all the audio around, I'll end up grabbing your call. So if you guys end up calling in, once again, 813-553-1130. Fuji, lots and lots and lots to get into tonight. But with that being said, we're going to bring in, first of all, our First Lady co-host that we have not seen, I think, as a matter of fact, maybe since last year. It seems like it's been that long. But Jen, how are you this evening?
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm great. Yeah, it feels like it's been way too long, obviously. But it's the first Tuesday night show I think I've ever been able to do, thankfully, because I'm on spring break this week. So I've had a lot of chance to relax and catching up on following some men's basketball this week. I know it's the March Madness is starting soon, so I'm super excited. But other than that, I've also been really excited just of everything that's been going on in the off season with the NFL so far. It's been pretty crazy. And now we have Carson Wentz as well going to the Washington Commanders. We have Tom Brady, who basically went on a mini vacation. So it's just pretty cool so far. I can't complain. I really can't complain.
Oh, also, you got the start, the USFL heating up, and I think right before the draft kicks off in a month, or a little more than a month.
Right, yeah.
It's just a lot going on. The Sixers, Phillies, I don't know what they had Dombrowski and Howie off today. They probably took in some golf. I don't know what the hell they're doing. I thought they were going to go corner of the market. Chris Bryant, Nick Castellanos. Yo, Dave, go get some bats for this outfield. Get some offense. You're already bringing in these guys for the bullpen. Let's start stocking let's listen to Bryce and bring his best friend in. Between you and that guy crossover at the NovaCare, I don't know what he's doing today. He must have took off with you and went golfing. That's why I'm fired up today, folks.
Oh, boy. And the Rams
begins. That's it. You bring back Greg Ward. I mean, come on. You need safety help.
Ryan,
wait. You need a wide receiver.
Before I get the boxing belt out, hold on. Wait a minute. I now got to pop on the national correspondent here because I already see him giggling and laughing. He will get you more fired up here at this point. It's been a long time. Ryan Neff is back with us tonight.
Oh, Fuji, get a little bit more fired up, would you?
Always when it comes to Roseman.
So much to talk about. It was a
great pickup, but this guy needs to put somebody better. This guy's on the hot seat this year with his contract. Hey, Jeff, start lighting a fire under your boy or he's gone. You ain't getting rid of him. He ain't going anywhere. That's stinking.
Oh, boy. Well, it's a good thing that Evan's
I got nothing after that.
That's right. It's a good thing that Evan's in the green room just waiting patiently to watch this one here, rant and rave, but it's okay. We understand it. But also from the Toronto Blue Jays, it is our young local Tampa correspondent, Dylan Spalding in the house. Dylan, how are you this evening?
I got to start off by saying this in all respect to the legend himself. Hey, yo. In the immortal words of Scott Hall himself, Razor Ramon, hey, Chico. Obviously, God rest his soul. What he did in the wrestling world was incredible. Obviously, there will never be another Razor Ramon. But regardless, Angel, I got to mention, listen, Canada, you forgot to mention Canada. They're going to become the newest country to be watching this show because I am the official Tampa correspondent, but also obviously working for the Blue Jays. I got that Blue Jays love coming out of me right now. We got spring training back. The boys, the north of the border boys, obviously a lot of high hopes for them heading into the season. Maybe Freddie Freeman, maybe Kyle Schwarber I've heard as well. Got UC Kikuchi coming in, the another good pitcher who will add to the pin. I'm excited, Angel. Let's go. Let's go, Jays, north of the border. Here we go.
Yeah, well, listen, now that you mention it, we do have fans from Toronto, actually, that do tune in. So thanks to you, we'll get even more people. And by the way, you guys must have scared Fuji off because apparently his camera went away. But that's okay, though, because now at least gives me a quick minute to introduce our guest tonight. From PhillyVoice.com, if he's not busy enough doing Phillies coverage, Sixers coverage, Flyers coverage, he takes a minute to come on with us. Sports editor, formerly of ESPN, also of Metro Philly. It is the man that we've been waiting for all this time without Fuji going into a major rant. It is Evan Macy. Evan, how are you this evening?
I'm good. I'm glad you guys made room for me. There's not a lot of real estate up here.
Thanks for coming on, Evan.
Thanks for coming on, Evan.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys.
Listen, now, if you want to get Fuji more fired up, and in case you missed this today, okay, his best friend that he knows that he loves very well, with our update, Fuji could not wait for Tom Brady to come back. As you can see, Tom is just excited to see Fuji. So they've been longtime best friends, and well, you know, it's just the way it goes, but he don't let him fool you. And by the way, him and Howie Roseman, they're just as tight as white on rice. That's how close they are because they call each other just about every single night.
Evan, just to clear this up, this gentleman is from Philly originally. He lives in Tampa. Now, on the back of his jersey, there's been a report that he has a Tampa Bay Tom Brady jersey. And also, he received a care package just right before Tom retired. So this man has much love for
But something happened to his mic. I don't know what happened, Evan. There's audio issues. No, listen. He likes to bust my chops here. There you go with the Bucks hat. He likes to bust my chops only because moving down here, obviously, I follow the local teams as well and keep everyone updated. And before Tom decided to retire, I ended up breaking the news before ESPN ended up getting it wrong. So it's all right. It's just a fun little banter thing we got going on back and forth. I see the comments coming in, so you guys hang on with the comments. Tom, I see you. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I did see the picture, though, with you, Tara, and Kristen. Great picture, you guys, over the weekend. So very, very nice to see that picture up there. Starting off here, I guess now that Major League Baseball evidence back, I didn't expect, truthfully, for this to actually happen, only because if we all looked at it, supposedly a lot of reports were that they were going to keep this running until about July if they make any kind of comeback coming back. But again, we've seen 2 years between COVID and then last year, the pause and start delay of the way it was for Major League Baseball, and then add this year. They know they would have lost more of a fan base. So we know there's been MLB changes. As far as to the rules, they've said now there is going to be 162 games. So a lot was to be digested by this contract. But supposedly also, everything was not complete only because this is only a 5-year deal. So to me, being 5 years, that means that everything that they exactly wanted between the players, the owners, and MLB, they didn't get everything rectified. So is there any super truth to that, whether they didn't get exactly everything they wanted and just wanted to push the contract through to pretty much save the season, and not only that, save the fans from not leaving any more than we've had in the past?
I mean, first of all, if it's a true compromise, then nobody's happy. So I think we have a true compromise because I don't think anybody's really happy. And the other thing that I learned being in this industry is, honestly, if you're getting your news from one of the guys on Twitter, like John Heyman, the guys that break the news, even like Adam Schefter or Adrian Wojnarowski, those guys have agendas. Those guys have to service the players because they want to keep getting scoops. So I think a good example of that was the coverage of the lockout, because there were so many conflicting reports, like within minutes, that we were close to a deal and there was no chance of a deal, and we're going to have a 14-team playoff and then a 12-team playoff, and then this is going to be the luxury tax. And it's really, the reporters have become a part of the negotiations because they'll negotiate through the media. Not to be like an old man on a rant, I'm obviously a younger guy, but back in the days of newspapers before social media, we didn't have this issue. There were gatekeepers and there were a lot more facts coming out. So you really have to take all this information with a grain of salt, especially right now when all this news is breaking with free agent signings. Rumors of Deshaun Watson is close with one team and not with another team. So you really kind of just have to take everything with a grain of salt. So as far as Major League Baseball's lockout and how that process played out, until I saw, ink on pavement, I didn't believe any of it. But I'm very glad that there's any kind of deal done because I do love baseball.
Now, in the same token, right, as you talk about Deshaun Watson here, and obviously we know that there's no charges being pressed against him, which is a good thing compared to what we heard initially. There were supposed to be about 23 to 22 women, and then the stories continue to change. Things happen. All of us don't know exactly what ended up happening, but the good thing was that at least now, for the moment, for Deshaun Watson, that he can save face for saying for the longest that he did absolutely nothing wrong. Again, we're not in the room. We're just stating what's been stated out there. But for Deshaun Watson, it seems like the market is hot and heavy for him. Now, supposedly, Panthers could be looking at him. The Saints could be looking at him. Who knows if the Texans decide to say, you know what, we're going to keep you around for some time. And do we know maybe possibly the Bucs decided to make a run for him until Tom decided to come back. So Deshaun Watson, will he stay in Houston or will someone else acquire services?
I mean, you also have the Falcons. Came as kind of a late team that were interested in him. I've seen buzz with the 49ers because they're going to be trading Jimmy Garoppolo likely. There's a ton of teams that are interested in him because if you take all of the extracurricular stuff off the out of the agenda, he's an amazing quarterback. He's really, really talented. He can move. He can throw the ball deep. He's fairly accurate. He's exactly what people are looking for, in this current NFL landscape. So he's a hot ticket item. Luckily, the Eagles, at least in my opinion, are not taking a chance on him. I think the asking price when you have a guy under contract and this many bidders is astronomical because you're going to have teams that are throwing 3 first-round picks maybe 4 first-round picks. There'll be players involved. It's absurd. I can't even imagine being the Texans and trying to weed through all the offers and get a fair value on this because eventually these teams are going to have to say no and look to their second option. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. I have no prediction. It seems like anything could happen. I think the Panthers, if you put a gun to my head, would be my guess, though.
Well, that's what Gary Cobb was reporting on Twitter just a little while ago, that it sounds like Watson wants to go to Carolina. As far as the Eagles front, Evan, you see Howie going out for a wide receiver or possibly, Miles Jack getting released today or something, like throw us a bone, something.
Yeah, I like the Hassan Reddick signing. That's kind of like old school Eagles football. They're trying to build the lines. The offensive line is elite, honestly. I mean, they have Jason Kelsey coming back, Lane Johnson. It's a fantastic offensive line. Jordan Mailata is a rising star. So the other part of the equation is the defensive line. So Reddick is a sack machine. He's going to be able to harass the quarterback. The Eagles had 29 sacks last year. It was the third fewest. You knew that was going to be something Howie was not okay with. So I think that wide receiver is probably the next thing they're going to do. If you look at the available guys, there's a lot of talented wide receivers who had really crappy years last year or were hurt last year. And I think that it's more likely than not that Howie will go after one of those guys on a 1-year prove-it deal. Juju Smith-Schuster kind of fits the bill there a little bit. I know that there's an Indianapolis Colts connection with Nick Sirianni and Zach Pascal. Jimmy Kempski, he's our Eagles beat writer. He really thinks that Pascal's the most logical choice. He's kind of like a much better J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, kind of a big body who can block. I don't think they're going to be splashy with wide receiver. I think they're going to try to get good value because they're going to try to stretch their budget a little bit and fill a lot of holes. Don't forget they need a safety. I wouldn't be surprised if they did a little bit more on the defensive side as well.
I mean, Honey Badger's out there, but I don't know if that's something they're interested in. But I know Jimmy Kempski today reported that the Eagles wrote in had no other interest in Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, I saw that too. Once again, like I said at the top, it could be one of those games where they're just, Howie's threatening to walk away to try to get some upper hand. You never really know. Juju might be too coveted a guy. His numbers have been really good other than last year. But I think he would be a perfect fit, and he's only 25 years old, which is really nice. You see a lot of the free agents in their late 20s and early 30s. Guys like AJ Green are out there, Jameson Crowder. I don't really want any of those guys, but there are possibilities because they might be cheap.
I was hoping Jarvis Landry myself, but I don't know what his price tag is going to be.
I'm pretty sure it'd be up there. I want to make sure Dylan gets his question in as well, because I know he has limited time with us tonight since he's getting ready for the Blue Jays season. By the way, Evan, Dylan Spalding, who started with us here, first of all, let me go back just a little bit more. Give you a little history about young Dylan here, who's all but 18 years old, started working when he was 12 years old, then started his podcast when he was 14, very successful podcast, then was hired by the Tampa Bay Titans, the first basketball team in Tampa, who became the main team broadcaster. And I was fortunate enough to do a game with him. And the guy is incredible sounding. I mean, it's like sitting in your living room, as I mentioned it to him, right next to you. All you got to do is just grab your popcorn, grab your drink, listen to him. That he's sitting right next to me during the broadcast. Just a smooth fella. Now gets hired by the Toronto Blue Jays to be the scoreboard analyst, and then gets hired by the minor league team in order to be their scoreboard analyst as well. So with all that being said, that is our young Dylan Spalding here, just doing tremendous things for some good 5 or 6 years now, his young career. So, Dylan?
Yes, the Toronto Blue Jays, man. I'm excited. We got spring training back in. Evan, I guess we could kind of ask a baseball question here. Obviously, with the Blue Jays heading into the season, a lot of talk right now. Freddie Freeman, Kyle Schwarber are some of the big names right now. Where do you see the Blue Jays at with the current roster? Obviously, they just picked up Kikuchi, who's going to be a really good piece in that rotation. But where do you see the Blue Jays sit right now? And then adding a guy like Freddie Freeman, are they an AL East type of team to win that AL East, that division? Because it is very tight right now the way it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're kind of in the same shoes. I saw a lot of rumors this weekend, or today actually, about Chris Bryant and the Colorado Rockies. kind of going back and forth and being close. And, the NL West is kind of like the AL East where, it's just so loaded. It's so hard to compete. I think that I don't know. I want to say that I think the Blue Jays have a young core, but there's young cores across the board. It's really impressive how a lot of these teams in the AL East have drafted. I think that with the new expanded playoff format, which is 7 teams, and I'm assuming it's going to be 3 wild cards, that really opens the door for teams and divisions like that. If they can get hot, in the fall, win the wild card round, and then take a divisional series, then anything could happen. So I think that this really favors teams in loaded divisions like the Blue Jays. I think they're right there. I think without expanded playoffs, it would be really tight and really tough. But I think the fact that they're going to have so many teams getting in, there's a really good chance for them to go for it. And you're probably seeing that this offseason.
Ryan, I know you're eagerly waiting.
Evan, I got one question because it seems to be like a huge topic surrounding the Phillies. What in the hell are they thinking of bringing back Herrera?
I don't really have the answer. I was not happy with that signing. Take away the fact that he, had a 75-game suspension or whatever it was because of a domestic violence issue. Take that away. He wasn't really good last year. He couldn't really get on base. I don't know who the Phillies leadoff hitter is unless they bring somebody in. They don't really have anybody who can get on base and who has speed. Maybe Bryce Harper is that guy, but I don't think you want to take him out of the 3-hole. So that's a tough situation for the Phillies. But as far as Odubel's signing goes, I think that they want to platoon him with Matt Vierling, who's kind of one of their mid-level minor leaguers who broke out last season. I could see them maybe platooning in center. The only way that this makes sense to me is if they bring in a Nick Castellanos. I'm going to screw up his name because everybody's watching. Nick C. Or maybe a Schwarber, or maybe even Chris Bryant can play right field or left field. The only way that this makes sense is as a depth signing because they know they can't get 2 big-name outfielders and they need outfielders. So if the next piece of the puzzle is that they bring in a big-name outfielder, and also if Herrera's contract is like way small, like close to whatever the league minimum is, then it's something that's a little bit more palatable with me. But unless those things follow, it's really undefensible. I don't understand it.
Yeah, because he's clearly shown, based off last year, he doesn't know how to play the game. So it was a big topic here on radio yesterday. And everybody is just miffed at the signing. Nobody can figure it out. They can't come up with a good excuse.
No.
True. It's just one of those things. Sorry for interrupting, but you froze there a bit. It's kind of like adding a narrative when there really technically isn't one. It's like watching election day coverage and seeing the state by state and the county by county. It's really not something in order that matters. You either win the state of Florida or you don't win the state of Florida. It's the same with the offseason. It doesn't matter if the Herrera signing comes before the Schwarber signing, as long as they make sense together. So for now, I'm hoping that there is a master plan and we haven't seen it completely yet. But if not, it's awful and I really don't understand it.
Evan, can I ask you? I'm going to ask you one more quick question here real quick. You were mentioning Matt Vierling, which I had to pull out my Matt Vierling game used jersey that I have.
Nice.
I'm good friends with Matt Vierling. Vierling is one of my buddies who I got in the interview on my podcast. And obviously I have a lot of high hopes for Vierling. It was great to see him get into the show and get into the major leagues. But what do you think about the, young guys coming up in the Phillies system? It feels like some of them have been crash and burn with some of the Phillies prospects, especially like a guy like Mickey Moniak, who spent a lot of time in their system. And I would say has almost been a bust being a number 1, first round pick. So what do you think right now with some of the younger guys coming up in the system? Because I still have a lot of hope in Alec Boehm. I love Alec Boehm. It was disappointing to see them trade Spencer Howard, who I thought was going to be honestly a possible future ace possibly for the team at some point. But what do you think right now of the young core that the Phillies have, at least up and coming in their minor league system?
When you say young core, that's the sad and kind of pathetic thing about the Phillies. Their young core is really a couple of guys in their early 20s and then a couple of guys who are 18. They really do not have a deep farm system. They have drafted terribly. That's the reason they haven't made the playoffs since 2011 is because they haven't been able to draft. They haven't been able to hit on their first-round picks. Can you name the last first-round pick that worked other than Aaron Nola? There's 0 of them. And because of that, they've been behind the 8 ball, and they've had to bring in free agents to fill all their needs, and they've had to make trades, and they've had to sell off some of their prospects in order to bring back talent that's big league ready. There's a fan base that wants to win, and there's an ownership that has money to spend, but they don't have, those young guys who are everyday players. Bryson Stott was really good last year. He's their shortstop prospect who was a first-round pick a few years ago. He's from Las Vegas, and he's actually pretty close friends with Bryce Harper. He flashed a lot of power last season. He's going to be in spring training, and he's going to have a chance to compete for a big league role. He could take the job away from Didi Gregorius if he has a really good spring and Gregorius continues to stink. After that, other than a few pitchers and depth guys, you don't really have anybody on the cusp of making the big leagues. Everybody else is really, really young or just a depth play. So a player like Vierling is a really, really nice thing for the Phillies to have because he wasn't a high draft pick. He was off the radar and he kind of broke out. Everybody else is just crashing and burning. Scott Kingery, they took a big chance giving him a contract a few years ago before he played a single game. He got COVID and was never the same. Maybe he'll bounce back. But if you look at this roster, who's under 25 that you trust? Nola dropped off. Bohm, his fielding at third base leaves some to be desired, and his power is just gone. He's this big, lanky guy. He's got a beautiful swing, and he's not able to get the ball out of the yard. He hits it hard, but he hits it on the ground. So really, it's not difficult. Why have the Phillies not made the playoffs? Because their front office doesn't know how to draft. So until that becomes something that's a strength and not a weakness, they're just going to be close to 30 years old with an inflated payroll and hoping to be a wild card team.
Evan,
sorry to bring you guys down.
If I may ask, I am kind of taking it back to football for a second, but this has been, a huge topic in the offseason. And as we all know as Philly fans, or even not Philly fans, the Philadelphia Eagles love a good quarterback controversy. So I know you know where I'm going with this, but I wanted to get your insights about Jalen Hurts in his first full season as an Eagle, as well as get your insights as well as Carson Wentz coming back to the NFC East, but as a Commander.
Well, I'll answer the Wentz part first. It's the best thing for business that's happened to me in a very long time because our readers are just like hate reading Carson Wentz like there's no tomorrow. And it's just incredible that he's back in the NFC East. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but Ben Simmons and Carson Wentz are like within 90 minutes of Philly. That's absolutely nuts. So that's that part of your question. As far as Jalen Hurts, he was okay last year. He showed a lot of talent with his legs. I think that he definitely needs to improve with his checkdowns and with his pocket presence. Those are things that were really inconsistent last year. But he showed he can lead the team to the playoffs, and he is an NFL quarterback. And I think, it's all about cashing in on that rookie contract. And while they have cheap quarterback play right now and 3 first-round picks, this is the time where they want to have somebody like Hurts on the roster because then – they can get a Hassan Reddick or they can bring in some wide receiver help. They can take some swings in the draft. They can actually move those first-round picks to bring in guys that'll help them win now. If you had to choose between having some cap space and 3 first-round picks and Jalen Hurts or having a Russell Wilson or star quarterback, but you wouldn't have your first-round picks and you wouldn't have your cap space, I would rather have the flexibility that the Eagles have right now. And you know what? If it ends up that Hurts doesn't have a good second full season, then there's no reason why, Howie can't wheel and deal and try to find that franchise quarterback. But the supporting cast needs to get better. And maybe that is the ingredient that's missing for Hurts to end up being a top 12, top 10 quarterback.
Waiting for Jen there.
I'm here. I'm sorry.
No problem. Might be a little bit of audio.
I'll just add while we're on the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, he had like nobody to throw to. He had Devonta Smith, who they didn't target enough, and Dallas Goedert, and that's it. There was nobody else on that offense that he could trust. That's why they switched to a run-first offense and ran the ball more than any team in the NFL. So add some more weapons, add a guy across from Devonta Smith that makes them focus less on Devonta Smith. And let's see what Jalen Hurts is like then.
Well,
And
that's
I'm sorry.
that's what I was saying, Evan. I mean, it's like you got a couple guys out there that are receivers, like you said, for 1-year deals. Like, I don't know what, these guys are just flying off the board. And it's like, what are you waiting on? I don't know what the guy's doing down there, but I mean, like I said, Hassan Reddick, great signing, but we need some get this man some weapons. I mean, it's a disgrace. I mean, I like to get in his ear, but what the hell? Excuse my rant, but it just fires me up.
No, it's fine. They started a show there from the Cleveland Browns fan camp over there. He's usually on Steel City Renegades. Adam says that Jarvis Landry to the Eagles will be a good mentor for the young wide receivers. I don't know, unfortunately, what the ticketing price would be for that one. I don't know if he would want to come to Philly, but I mean, supposedly, and I'm drawing a blank here, from Green Bay.
Devontae
Adams.
Yeah, was at one point possibly, and he had mentioned that he did want to come to Philly, but supposedly Green Bay could be throwing a good chunk of change his way to change his mind. And then you got, obviously, Aaron Rodgers being re-signed, which is kind of interesting too, Evan, that Aaron Rodgers, as much as he kept talking about that he did not want to stay in Green Bay, he wanted to explore other options. And the biggest thing being that it wasn't about the money, but ultimately it came down to the money. Is it one of those things? I mean, 12 years down Green Bay, you've only won one championship. You got 4 years left. Does that locker room still believe in him enough to try and attempt to win another Super Bowl?
I don't know if they've had great coaching there either in Green Bay, at least not a coach that Aaron Rodgers liked. All I can really say, I don't think there's any chance that Aaron Rodgers would have re-signed there without Devontae Adams definitely coming back. I can't see him playing for any other team. They'll figure out a way to get a contract extension. But it's one of those things you see in the NFL, and it's why I was frankly so surprised that the Rams experiment succeeded, because when you have a quarterback that takes that higher percentage of your cap number, there's just less money to go around to bring in other talented guys. And I think that that's one of the things in Green Bay that you saw and you'll see with his contract. It's kind of like, you're making the front office try to do a lot with less. I know Brady in New England took a pay cut for a couple of seasons. I don't know all the specifics on that, but I know he was taking below market value. And I'm surprised we don't see more of that from these elite quarterbacks. It's not like they can't make it up in endorsements and stuff like that. But as far as Green Bay goes, I don't really have high hopes for them unless, they figure out their coaching and Aaron Rodgers is happier and maybe they stay a little healthier too.
Well, Angel, just to let you know, it came out today that Green Bay offered Devontae Adams a deal worth $23 million a year, and he shot it down.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, so then it makes you then wonder, Ryan, is it to the point where some of these players, and say what you want to say, I guess, about Green Bay here, but it got to the point where a lot of these players ultimately got tired of this whole Aaron Rodgers drama. And then you add that to this season coming up with everything that went on last season, and it really starts making you wonder, do they really accept him as the starting quarterback? Obviously so. Then unfortunately, you've had that great talent that Jordan Love just sitting there now for 3 seasons. And what happens to his career at this point? And Evan, I know there's teams out there looking for quarterbacks. Does Green Bay stay with Jordan Love? Or is it one of those things that maybe he can start looking at because he's on his rookie deal and he's coming up at the end of his rookie deal here? Is it to the point where maybe someone like New Orleans, someone who's looking for a QB, even possibly the Panthers, could they make a run for Jordan Love if Green Bay decides to give him up?
I got to keep coming back to the Eagles because it's what I know. And when I think about Jordan Love, I kind of see like a Gardner Minshew situation. Minshew has a much better body of work. Love really hasn't played much. But you have that backup guy who is on the rookie deal still and who is playing behind the bona fide starter. That's definitely something that if the price is right for both Minshew or for Jordan Love, you better believe they're going to trade that player. I don't know if they're going to get something that's their asking price. If Howie Roseman was offered a 3rd-round pick for Gardner Minshew, who he got for a 6th-round pick last year, he's gonna pay for his plane ticket and he's gonna go wait with him in the airport. Jordan Love, same thing. He was a high draft pick. They're probably not going to sell him for chump change. But if there's a team that thinks that he can be their starter, there's no reason why they wouldn't trade him. You can kind of survive with the backup quarterback, one of those makeshift journeyman guys, because if Aaron Rodgers goes down, Jordan Love isn't going to save you. What does he do for you? So, you might as well get what you can for him.
Right. And then, of course, we heard that Mitch Trubisky, with some folks, as a matter of fact, it's Chipper's on here. I know the guys from Steel City Renegades may be happy there in Pittsburgh that obviously he decided to take his talents over there to Steeler Nation, which then becomes an interesting saga because we did see the good years out of Mitch Trubisky from Chicago, and he seemed to be pretty decent for his first year. Going into his second, after that, it just seemed to fall apart. But then again, it makes you wonder if it was part to blame Trubisky and obviously part to blame for the now released head coach, if it was his issue. So now he gets a restart all over again. We didn't see too much of him from Buffalo last year. We get to see him now in Pittsburgh. Is that, and again, I know it's hard because you cover the Eagles, but is that a better fit for Trubisky to the Steelers than what the Steelers had in their arsenal?
I thought the Steelers had an opportunity to be one of those teams that just went for broke for one of those young franchise guys. Maybe a Malik Willis, somebody in the draft. I'm actually kind of surprised that they went for a Mitch Trubisky. I guess maybe they see it as a bridge year. I can't imagine that they see him as their franchise quarterback going forward. A lot of different mentalities when it comes to quarterbacks in the NFL. And, just like you see a lot of retread head coaches that get hired, like Mike McCarthy over with Dallas and Lovie Smith, you see these short memories and you bring in these guys again. Maybe there's somebody who's watching Trubisky's college tape and they think, you know what, I think I can save him. I think he's going to be good. Let's give him another chance. So it only takes one guy to believe in a quarterback. Maybe they'll get it right, but it seems like a bridge year kind of thing to me.
Evan, as far as I'm sure you get a million questions. And the thing of it is, do you see the Eagles definitely go on defense, or will Howie take a quarterback? I know you're probably battered with this question. It's talk radio. It's all over.
Oh, yeah, that's all they're talking about. And, I mean, they have 3 first-round picks. I think you can almost guarantee he's going to get a pass rusher. There's a very, very strong class of defensive ends and edge rushers, and that's Howie Roseman's sweet spot. One of those 3 picks is going to be that. I think depending on what happens with wide receiver, I think it would make sense to do a Zach Pascal on a 1-year deal and then to draft one of the mid first round wide receivers as well. And then you have that 3rd first-round pick. I don't think they really need linebacker. They have Reddick, and they don't really prioritize that position. So I think they're going to look at secondary there, or that could be the quarterback pick if there's a quarterback on the board that they like. I can't see them trading up to get a quarterback. If someone falls in their lap at 19 and Howie wants to keep that pick, I think that's the circumstance where they would take a quarterback. They'd put him behind Jalen Hurts, and oh my God, Philadelphia would be insufferable if that happened. But, I don't think they're going to trade up for a quarterback. And I think it's a guarantee they'll take at least 1 defensive player, if not 2.
The secondary, Slay's really the only guy that's under contract. You bring Rodney McLeod back. Do you bring Steve Nelson back? Or I think they should take a D back on one of those picks, because I don't think Slay might be here another year or 2.
No, I agree. I think they need to get younger there. Right. They have Avonte Maddox, who they just extended, who they really like in the slot. They really need a number 2 guy. If you notice, there were a lot of these little roster moves that weren't that exciting that Howie did. One was Andre Chichassery. It's another name I'm going to get wrong. They also drafted Zach McPherson last year, a young cornerback that they like. And I think his mentality is he's going to kind of stockpile these mid-level young corners, and he's going to try to have somebody, win a battle in training camp. So if they don't draft one, I think you can see one of those guys as the starter. I don't think they're going to spend a lot of money on it because they have depth there and they could draft one. Safety is the bigger issue because they don't really have a safety under contract. So that could be a pick in the first round. I think they're probably going to sign some kind of veteran. I don't know if they're going to bring back McLeod or anything like that, but I think there's enough safety depth that they'll get a guy on on a one year $4 million deal or something like that.
I mean, everybody talks about Fletcher Cox, but let's just face facts here. The last time this front office drafted an impact player was 1996 by the name of a guy named Brian Dawkins. This defense needs an impact player. Slay's a great player, but you need a leader for the future. All right, Hassan Reddick, great pickup, but we need some homegrown talent here. Enough of going out and trading and signing guys. We need an impact player for the next 10 years that could just take over like old Eagles, old school Eagles football on defense.
Yeah, and if Fletcher Cox does stay with the team, I think you're going to see a much better pass rush because he's not. I mean, last year, who else did you really have to worry about if you're an opposing offensive line?
I mean,
Derek Barnett really didn't show much.
Javon Hargrave came right out of the gate. Like the first 5 games, he had like 4 sacks. The Gravedigger was on fire, but Brandon Graham going down against San Fran, and Derek Barnett never really living up to the hype. I don't see him coming back.
No, Barnett's gone, and hopefully Graham comes back and he's a serviceable player. We'll see how that injury affects him long term. But he's a great locker room guy, and he's a guy that they want to have back on the team for sure. And with him and Cox, they're both, maybe they're not on the field, those dynamic playmakers like Brian Dawkins, but they're really, really good locker room guys that everybody respects. So those guys, what you said is spot on. You want to bring in the next leader while you have these guys in the locker room who are leaders. Rodney McLeod's another one that comes to mind. So, if it's up to me, I go defense in the first round, maybe pick up a wide receiver in the second round, and sign a safety in free agency.
Well, I don't want to keep going. I was going to say, let's not forget Milton Williams and Josh Sweat stepped it up real good on that defensive line last year. Didn't mean to cut you off, Ryan.
Absolutely.
Evan, I'll tell you what, though, and I don't know if Jen agrees with me here or not. He better hit on a receiver, Howie. Because Devontae Smith is a decent receiver, but Rager is let's face it, he's not a good receiver. Jalen Hurts doesn't have a lot to throw to as far as like weapons on offense. And there are 2 guys out there that the Eagles had a shot at, and they let him slip by the names of Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. So Howie better hit on a receiver this year, or they're going to find themselves in the same boat offensively.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. The thing that I always think about, because another one is they took Arcega-Whiteside before they took before Metcalf was off the board. And the thing I always wonder is if you bring in Justin Jefferson in 2020 and you have Carson Wentz as your quarterback, who's just a complete train dumpster. Justin Jefferson still Justin Jefferson. Now, of course, he's going to be better than Jalen Reagor because you got nothing from Reagor. But it's interesting that it's just a product of circumstance a lot of times. Obviously, Howie got the pick wrong. I'm not defending Howie. Justin Jefferson's a much better player. But who knows if he ends up being much better, than Reagor was in whatever, locker room cancer of Wentz and Doug Peterson getting fired. And it was a very, very, very ugly team in 2020. So, it's easy to play revisionist history, but you have to think about the fit and you have to think about the situation. So he made some misses, but I don't know if other picks, if you have Reagor who goes to a different team with a better quarterback situation or with a better offensive line, et cetera, is Reagor still a bust, a complete train wreck? I don't know. But it's something that you kind of have to consider. And I agree with you, but it's also worth considering that, the situation was terrible with Reagor, although he was really bad this year too. So I don't give Reagor a pass at all.
Just to touch on something, just to clear the air. The reason they said a lot of teams passed on DK Metcalf was due to a medical condition. I forget exactly what it was, but they said he had something wrong going into the combine that year, and a lot of teams just overlooked him. Not to sit here and defend Howie, but,
No, you're totally right. And you know what? The Eagles took a chance on a guy who had a medical issue. In the second round, they took Sidney Jones a few years ago, which I thought was a great pick. He ended up really being nothing. So you take a chance on the injury guy, or you don't take a chance on the injury guy. It's a complete coin flip. We're here bashing the Phillies front office because they can't draft. We're here bashing Howie Roseman because he can't assess a wide receiver. These are hard things to do, and it's really a complete coin flip. There's no way to predict it. He's been more unlucky than he's been bad, but he's been pretty unlucky.
No, that's good. And I'd have to agree. And it is, listen, it's easy as fans, obviously we can, it's what fans do, right? They bash because they have no idea what it actually takes to run a team, to put things together. And it's tough too, because you just look at just a couple years ago that the Eagles ended up winning a Super Bowl. So it's kind of hard to go from that plateau that we've been waiting for from 52 years to finally get there. Not to include obviously before the NFL Super Bowl championships came around, but it's hard. It's hard to sit back as a fan and wonder, is the GM doing a good enough job? What does Howie have to do in order to figure out what's right or what's wrong with this for this team? And then does Jeffrey Lurie say, okay, you know what, Howie, you got one more year to get it straight now. So obviously, if Jeffrey Lurie believes in Howie that much, then we have to be patient, figure out what's going to happen with this team, see what happens between the combine, see what happens when it comes up to the draft. So it's just so many unknowns, and it's tough. It's tough to see it because we know in Philly, it's what have you done for me lately? And so we want to see another Super Bowl championship around here, and it's going to be tough as we wait the same way with the Sixers. We hope that Doc Rivers can finally get past that first round, that divisional round, in order to get the Sixers to where it needs to be. James Harden coming into town, obviously getting, Maxey to play out of his mind for the most part. And I know there was, Twitter conversations like everywhere else today saying, is Harden going to be good enough? Are the Sixers going to be good enough? If it was up to our national correspondent, I'm pretty sure his Chicago Bulls, would rank them up there amongst the best. But, we know that it's going to be all these unknowns, but it's just a matter of patience. It's a matter of time to see what happens. And even though, yes, as my co-host likes to put out there, that I'm down here in Tampa, do I care much as far as when it comes to the Bucks? Not really, but I report on them. Why? Because, they're part of, the NFL. It's part of the league. And so I'm pretty sure it would have been the same way with the Bucks. All the Bucks fans would have to see what was going to happen, who were they going to draft, what they were going to do, because their third string quarterback there was no way in the world he was going to come in this season and pick up where Tom left off. So thankfully, Tom ended up coming back. I know Fuji was extremely happy. Do not let him fool you. He was extremely happy, came back. He bought him a box of cigars, and everything's all right. But that's okay.
The guy with the jersey in the back of the closet.
And once again, he keeps.
And you got the care package too.
No, I don't have the care. That again, I ended up back there in Northeast Philly, so that's all right. You never made it here. So Hop's giving a jump from my house, so it's all right. But Evan, I want to get to you a question as well, because I know you probably don't get this question asked much. And as you were coming up, obviously, if starting out from journalism to a local paper to a magazine, in order for you to be where you are, how much emphasis did it have to make sure that when you were coming up with a story and you were telling the story, the truth behind it? Because we've seen nowadays a lot of times, and I'm not knocking any article writer that's out there, but we've seen where people have made their slip ups and they have not put the actual facts together, and then they lose that credibility. As you were coming up through the ranks, how important was it, for obvious reasons, but especially for you, to make sure that when Evan Macy was going to get noticed by the media, to make sure that you had all your ducks in a row? So how much effort does it take to make sure that you are putting the right credible information out there?
I don't know if you're indirectly or directly asking me about probably the biggest story I ever had my hands on, which was a couple of years ago. One of our freelance writers, Joe Santaliquido, who covered the Eagles a little bit for us, he heard some rumblings in the Eagles locker room. He played me the quotes. These players were going off on Carson Wentz. Complete jackass, terrible teammate, preferred players over the others, all these horrible stories. And I heard these quotes, and I frankly didn't know what to do with it. What was the responsible course of action? I'm the sports editor. The buck stops with me. And it was a really interesting situation in my career. It taught me a lot. And, I figured if these players feel some kind of motivation that they have to speak out, then, it's they're adults. They know what they're saying. They didn't say they were off the record. So, we spent months putting together the story, sourcing it, reached out to the Eagles for comment. This, if you will recall, came after. So the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017-18. Then they went back to the playoffs. Wentz got hurt, and Foles led them to the playoff game. The double doink, they beat the Bears, and then they lost to the Saints the next game. So it's this offseason. After that game, Wentz was hurt. I don't even remember at this point. I don't know if it was his back or whatever the injury was. One of you can correct me, but whatever it was at this point in his career. He really, he was almost the MVP one year. He was pretty good the next year. And so we ran with this story. We put the quotes in. We had to keep them anonymous because we didn't have permission to use the player's name. And this thing absolutely blew the F up. It was out of control. We were the top topic on First Take on ESPN, Around the Horn. I was invited on Mike Missinelli's show. I'm sure you guys know him. He didn't fail to tell me that he was a lawyer 3 times in our conversation, bashing me. How could you let this nonsense go? Anonymous sources, blah, 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 blah. And, I heard the quotes. I trusted the writer. We had a lot of people read it. We had legal read it. We did our due diligence. And I'm not patting myself on the back, but we were right. We were right, and the truth came out, and I'm really proud to have been validated. And it's one of those things where there's 2 lessons from it. One is I could have been scared by the magnitude of it and how big it was. I'm just at phillyvoice.com. We're not a national publication, and the other side of it is to be a little bit reckless, to do it without the Eagles' knowledge, to draw conclusions, etc. And it was really hard to toe that line. And there are things I probably did wrong in that situation. But, that's a good example of taking your time to get it right, and you'll be validated. So I guess, the best advice I can give is, a lot of people want to be first. There's probably always going to be somebody who's going to be first. It's the age of Twitter. Somebody's going to be completely reckless, and they're just going to try to make a name for themselves and break it before you. But the best advice I can have is to A, make sure you get it right, and B, write it differently, have a different take on it, provide something that, the first impulse when you get a story is something. Write about the second impulse, write about the third impulse. So just being creative, thinking from a fan's standpoint. What would I want to read about? What are the questions that I have? Those are things that I learned throughout the years. And, to anybody coming up, to Dylan, who probably is learning all this stuff himself, it's trial by fire, but find a way to do it differently and be smart and take risks, but don't be fast and first and wrong. Honestly, it's a death sentence.
Yeah, it's funny because, and Fuji, I'll get you here in a minute, but the funny thing was, I completely forgot all about that. So it wasn't an indirect or direct towards you, but it was a great example though, because it exactly what you said was exactly what I'd hoped, that you come out with a great explanation as far as what to do and what not to do, because you're absolutely right. Today, and unfortunately, everyone wants to be known, and they want to be seen, they want to be heard. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, as long as you get the information correct. Because the honest to God, the worst thing to do is to put something out there that is not true whatsoever. And then the day that you actually have something factual, people are going to look at you like, wait, weren't you that same guy that said this a couple of years ago and it turned out to be false? So that what I was looking for, as far as the answer, you were right on point. So that's what I was looking for. So it wasn't indirect or direct. So I just want to let you know that.
Evan, just to touch on, I don't want to get in the whole Wentz conversation, but the story that broke last week, when he wasn't happy about the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, I forget who reported it. Somebody said that him and Darren Sproles got in a fight and they had to be separated. I don't know how true that is. Or could you touch on that?
I've heard that from a source that I trust, that's true. I wouldn't volunteer that name, but I won't deny that I've heard that. Yeah.
Also, when the Rumblings, I guess back in 18 or 19, was it true about Alshon Jeffrey being the one that went to Josina Anderson to break that story?
Alshononymous, I think that's what called him. Yeah, that one I don't particularly have confirmation on. I know who our sources were for our Wentz story, and I'm not going to reveal them. I'll say that they were on the offensive side of the ball for the most part. Right. So based on that, I believe it to be true, but I don't have a factual confirmation that Alshon talked to Anderson. No.
Joey B had a question. He says, Evan, your thoughts on the finish at the Players? Great finish with a lot going on.
that was that whatever round that was. I guess it was technically the second round when the wind was like 40 miles an hour. That was amazing. That was like watching a football game in a snowstorm. It was really, really cool. I'm a big golfer. I'm a member at a club here. I play like 3 or 4 days a week. So I always have golf on in the background while I'm working. So also having golf on Monday was a nice treat because I had it on the whole day while I was working. It was fantastic. I love it. Golf is in a good place right now, I think.
I'd say you're a big Tiger Woods fan.
Yeah.
I read that on your tweets.
Yeah, he was inducted to the World Golf Hall of Fame. And it just, a lot of people when they grow up, they have like the athlete that they just kind of got into sports because of. And for me, it was Tiger Woods. I was, 10, 11 years old when he won that first Masters. And so it's cool that I have like the memory of every stage of his career. I know a lot of people have that with Jordan or with Magic. And for me, it was Tiger Woods.
Nice.
Yeah. See, that could be another discussion. Everyone's going to have you back because that could be a whole discussion for a whole different day because some people believe that LeBron James is the greatest of all time. Me personally, I believe that Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. And it comes down to most of the times when we have this debate is because obviously a lot of today's generation were, born and raised here with LeBron James. Not taking anything away from the man because you can ask him about a game 10 years ago and he can almost repeat word for word what he did, when it happened. I mean, it's amazing what he does. And I'm pretty sure one day, whether he's going to be a president of a company, whether he's going to be a head coach definitely is his career. And I know he wants to hang around until his son Bronny comes in and he's thinking about going back to Cleveland. Who knows where Bronny's going to end up, whether it be in LA or it be in Cleveland. But, to me, it's always going to be me, in my own opinion, and my opinion means absolutely nothing. But to me, Michael Jordan, hands down, the greatest of all time. And the same thing can be said about Kobe Bryant because Kobe took the Lakers from basically being nowhere after, superstars for many, many years, ended up bringing them back to where they were. So, I guess for me to you following obviously a lot of Sixers, following the NBA as much as we do on the fan base side. I know you may not write for them. In your own opinion, MJ or LBJ, which one you believe will be the greatest of all time?
I'm going to pick 2 different adjectives here. I think that Michael Jordan is the greatest, greatness on display. Watching him play any given night, the things that he was able to do, he's the greatest. I think LeBron is the best. And I think there's a difference between those 2 things because LeBron is going to have this long career, taking all these different teams to championships, playing pretty much every position from shooting guard to center. I think he's probably the best basketball player we've ever seen over an entire career. But Michael Jordan is the greatest, just the most talented, the most incredible human being who ever played basketball. So I know I'm kind of like giving a non-answer, but they're both fantastic. But Michael Jordan is the greatest. But if you word it differently, then I could see LeBron being in the conversation, obviously.
Right. Now, Joey's got a follow-up question here. Joey is like our house comedian, but he says, Evan, did you know that Fuji carries a 1-iron, not in his bag, but in his car to prevent carjackings there in Philly? But again, the funny man that he is, and he wants to know who's got a better game on the links, Kevin Kincaid or Eitan Chandler?
Eitan's a friend of mine. I've played with him a few times. I haven't played with Kincaid. Eitan's okay. He's happy to break 100. I don't know what Kincaid's game is. I'm gonna have to invite him to my club sometime. Try to take some money from him.
That's all right. Listen, hey, again, we as much as we love to have fun on the show because that's all we do. We don't ever bring any harm or foul towards anybody because we just enjoy it, having cutting up and having fun with everyone, especially having Ryan back. We haven't seen in a while. Jen the same way. By the way, in case you didn't know, Jen entered a pageant. Now we don't know what the finish was. We believe that she finished first, and the pageant may not even happen even yet, but we believe that she finished first. Just because of the hard work and the dedication this woman has been putting in now since, I want to say, Jen, what about December, January, if I remember correctly, because it's been a while.
Yeah, just about. The pageant actually that kind of fell through, and I'm not going to be competing until the summer. But fingers crossed that I still finish first. That is always the goal. But no, I've just been pretty busy. I have school. I'm at Rowan. And so between that and kind of doing some things with the Rowans, the sports communication program, Been pretty busy, I guess I would say, but I'm glad. Like I said, I'm glad that spring break is this week, so I was able to come back and be able to just get back into being able to chill and take a little bit of a breather, because that's always important.
Oh,
No,
Jen,
Jen,
just like Dylan, just let everybody know where they can find you. I mean, you're covering the Eagles for PHL. How are you doing? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Let me get a second. Okay. So I cover the Eagle, or I started a little bit that last season covering the Eagles with Sports Talk Philly. And one of my favorite articles that I always have to touch on is like 2 weeks into starting with Sports Talk Philly, they had me interview Rodney McLeod for his work, Rodney and his wife, for the work that they did with their Change Our Future Foundation, as well as the sneaker ball that they held in December. So I was able to go with a friend to the sneaker ball and be able to just cover the event, and it was great. So that's one thing that I do. I write for Sports Talk Philly. I write for the University of Connecticut Athletics, so I am a little partial to them right now, especially with the March Madness going on. But nonetheless, I do write for University of Connecticut's athletic program. And then I actually just started my own website as well. It's called Nightmare on Broad Street. I had to take the name before it became popular again, but Nightmare on Broad Street, where I do a lot of opinion and column writing, and I got a lot of good things coming up with that website as well. But that's just some of the things that I'm doing. I could go on and on, but that's just some of the highlights of the things I've been able to work on these past couple months.
No, I'm telling you, the lady, she's consistently busy. And by the way, before we close out the show here, a couple of people I want to mention. Obviously, Dave Wallencheck from Redline Radio LLC, doing amazing things over there with the gang. Chipper, obviously, who's been here with them throughout the night. But Dave, what's going on? I know he's out there in Vegas enjoying himself. I can see it. The man's been on there for 2 weeks, working, also enjoying himself. But it's good to see you. And what up, Fuji? And what's going on there, Jennifer? All from Dave Wallencheck again from Maryland Radio LLC. You guys check out the Crank It Up, which I've missed only because I've been busy trying to get things situated on this side of the house as far as software and everything else. So I missed being on the show. But Crank It Up is on Monday nights, 8:30 to 10. Ryan's been on there with them as well. So check it out on the Facebook page from Redline Radio LLC. Also, thanks to Rick for tuning in. Rick says Nightmare on Broad Street sounds like the Flyers season. Yeah, it's unbelievable with the Flyers. I'm surprised they're even still a franchise. Honest to God, I know they go through it, but good Lord, it's amazing. Joey says Nightmare on Broad Street. Fuji needs to dress up as Freddy Krueger as the mascot for the website. Yeah, that would be
Angel. Just to call you, not to call you off. Excuse me. I thought you were trying to talk Tom Brady into coming back out of retirement. I thought that's what you've been doing.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was. I made sure I was at the dinner with him when he decided to come back and let me know
there
that.
Yeah, we sure meant it.
Yeah, well, don't worry.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah, well, we all hang out. It's all right though. It's he's still building his house down here in Miami, but he likes hanging out here in the Tampa area. But
hey, you know.
Well, exactly. It's all right. I'll break the news first when it comes down to Tom Brady. But to everyone else who tuned in, and Sean, by the way, if you're still watching, thank you for the Pete Alonso clip. Obviously, if you guys didn't hear, Pete Alonso was broadsided from a person who ran the red light, flipped over 3 times in his truck, and thankfully walked away. So thank God, because it could have been a lot worse.
Thank God for him.
Unfortunately, down here in Florida, that is almost every 5 minutes on every major intersection down here, because people just fly. And 19, I can refer to as Route 1 back in Philly. And 19, they probably do 90 miles an hour down 19, and then they just fly through the intersection like no one's around. So it's just amazing. One more comment coming in here before there he is. So thanks, Sean. I do appreciate it. By the way, Sean should be the GM because Sean brings up a lot of good points whenever we get into debates here. But to get into our sponsors here, thank you to everyone once again who tunes in. Also, thank you to our sponsors. Philly Sports Trips. Travel with the pros as they are down here in Clearwater, Florida. You guys can see phillysportstrips.com. Also, the bigstarsports.com. You guys can check them out on our website, broadstsouth.com. On with any the clue, 10 to 12, Monday through Friday out there in Houston. Also, to Larry Gilman at LG Direct Sales Solution Studios, lgdirect.net. If you need payment solutions, please visit them as well. TampaJoes.com. Beautiful 9316 Anderson Road in Tampa, Florida. And quickly going through it here with the Sports Draft Pros. If you guys take a look with our special partnership with Sports Draft Pros. Check them out on our website. And also, I'd like to say thank you so much. As I talked to Vince last night, hung out with the crew from Philly Sports Trips. We had such a blast on the boat. And if you guys have not booked your vacation getaway, your sporting venue getaway, please visit phillysportstrips.com. Every tailgate that I've been with these guys, I've had a blast. My producer and I had an enjoyable night last night with Vince and crew. We got to meet the wife and the little girl, his daughter. But partners here with phillysportstrips.com, and I couldn't be any happier as far as being partners with them. So great news from those guys, and I'm glad that we're making them happy. Same way with them as for us as well. Dave says, don't forget about the Power Piston Show. That's coming up in April. Good reminder, Dave. That would be April 1st to the 3rd, if I do remember correctly. And Rick says, waiting on Tampa for Fuji. Yeah, well, keep waiting because apparently he's not going to come down.
Appreciate it, Rick.
Yeah, it's never going to happen. That's right. Thanks to Dylan, who chimed in with us earlier. To Jen, that we haven't seen in a while. Ryan F., our national correspondent. Of course, Debbie, the producer in the other room. For The Godfather. And Evan, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Evan.
Again, come back anytime because I'm pretty sure we'll have a lot more to talk about as the season gets closer. So last comment that's chiming in here, the first to the 3rd. So everyone, Piston Power Show for the guys and girls going out there in Ohio, if I do remember correctly. But everyone else, thank you. We will see you Thursday with our guest that we were supposed to have on last Thursday. But because of the power storms that we had around here, we had to reschedule. So we will see you all Thursday night, 8 p.m. Everyone, enjoy your evening.